Good morning, everyone. We are getting the show started. Good morning. Buenos dias. I'd like to, first of all, welcome everyone to the third day of what has been an exciting food summit. Some of you guys are here for the first time, and you guys are in for a treat because we've had a lot of conversations thus far, and we are eager to hear from you as well. My name is Alex Rosales. I am a professor at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, and I am one of many hosts for this wonderful event. The National Center for Appropriate Technology has been a key partner in this, and as well as the Institute for Ecology, Scholarship, and Health. For those of you who it's their first day at the Food Summit, we have had 2 days of delightful, deep discussions around food production and equity in the food system. And we are going to continue that today with a broader conversation with folks from across the Rio Grande Valley and beyond who are involved in the food system in some way, right? And I think we all are at some point. We all eat food. But in this room, I mean, I see farmers, I see ranchers, I see municipal governments, I see academic institutions, I see federal government, I see coalitions, I see community-based organizations, and I see a lot of young people. And this is what the Food Summit is intended for, is to make sure that everyone who participates in the food system has a seat at a table to talk about what they want their food system to look like. Now, over the last 18 months, we have been having conversations with folks across the food system as part of a monthly working group. These are all volunteers. They come, we meet in Brownsville one month, we meet in Harlingen another month, here in the Upper Valley another month, and we rotate month after month. And we've got folks on there from faith-based organizations. We've got folks on there who are municipal and government officials. We've got scholars. We've got young people. I mean, and we've been talking with a voice that represents many, and we're trying to make sure that everyone's voice is included when we have as we envision what we want our food system here in the Rio Grande Valley to look like. So today and tomorrow, we are actually unveiling parts of those discussions because we have summarized them in what we're calling a food resolution. It's just a vision of what we think a food system can look like. It has voices from farm workers, from young people, from food distributors, from farmers, and from people in this room. Now, what it is meant to do is to guide us and to say, hey, look, I want to help. And when you ask that question, we'll say, hey, look, why don't we stand on these people's shoulders, these people who are here in the room and the people who are working to build a healthier, a fair, a sustainable food system for everyone, right? Now, some of you guys don't know this, but this area in the 1920s was starting to develop as a powerhouse for agriculture. And when they recruited and invited people to come to this Magic Valley, they touted it as a hub of prosperity. Now, the Rio Grande Valley remains as the powerhouse of agriculture in the state of Texas. We rank number one in crop production in the state. We produce more fruits, more vegetables, onions, watermelons, papayas, citrus, everything we can grow here in this hub of prosperity. We are also the home of some of the most major land ports in the country. FAR International Bridge brings in more than 30 billion of produce a year. And so in some ways, the food that feeds America comes from or through the Rio Grande Valley. And yet, we have such important needs when it comes to food. We have the highest rates of obesity and diabetes in the country. We have some of the worst rates of food access in the country. And hunger, we're among the top in the country, and sometimes even parts of the world. And this is the biggest agricultural powerhouse, and we have some of the most important food needs. So part of the reason why I work here and why some of us continue to work here is because we feel that there's an opportunity to reconnect parts of our food system that are disconnected. And I don't think we can argue that, right? We've got farm workers that have the same vision as farmers. We all want prosperity. So this is the challenge. These days open up conversations of how we can make sure that the hub of prosperity is prosperous for everyone. For farmers, for ranchers, for farm workers and their families, for young people looking for opportunities to make this their career and their avocation. So what I'm going to encourage you guys today, especially the young people, is to find someone who looks important, introduce yourselves to them, and I'll tell you why, and I'm looking at my students here, is because you guys have power, right? You are here, first of all, participating. And why do you guys have power? Is because you have something we want. Well, first of all, you have youth. I think we all want youth. But you also have a worldview and a perspective about growing up in these times where there are some grand challenges that can only be solved by you guys. And why do I say that? Is because we have tried. And we've created systems that have the results they get that I've described to you. We can grow food here in the Rio Grande Valley. How do we get it to those who need it most? That is a question that my good friend, Dr. Dwayne Goldman, has been asking as the Senior Advisor for Racial Equity for the USDA. So Dr. Goldman's a farmer, he's a food advocate, he's a good friend, he's been working in the food industry for 25 years before recently taking this very important job as a Senior Advisor at the USDA for Racial Equity. And he has been helping put together this vision of an equitable food system as part of the USDA's Federal Equity Commission. And it's with great pleasure that I asked Dr. Goldman to come up and address this important audience. Face that way.
All right. Alex, Dr. Rosales, thank you, man. It's always a pleasure. I really have enjoyed being with my colleagues down here the last couple of days, and really want to thank you, sir, as well as the great staff and Bella and everybody that's put this together. It's been a delight hanging out with you the last couple of days. So thank you. Buenos dias. Now that I've shared with you all the Spanish that I know, let me go ahead and do what I'm supposed to do. So, man, yeah, thanks for being such a gracious host. Let me do this. We have amongst us a few of the Equity Commission members, Dr. Rosales, that I've had the pleasure of working with over the last 2 or 3 years. So I'm going to ask you to stand right now. Alex, I saw co-chair Rodriguez here. I see Valerie Bill, David right here. Yeah, let's give him a round of applause. I want to thank you I want to thank you for your contributions. I want to thank you for your challenges, the expertise you brought to the table, the willing attitude that you consistently displayed to make the compromises and get us to the point where we did with the final report. So sincerely, thank you for doing that. This work certainly could not have been done without you and the other 40 or so members that we've had the pleasure of working with. You know, we showed the video yesterday of the Equity Commission. You probably heard the secretary say it. I've heard several of the commission members say it, Co-Chair Rodriguez, Co-Chair Cousins say that, you know, a couple of months ago, that was a milestone. And just as a reminder, a milestone is a point where you make significant progress, but it's not the end. It's not the final piece. We still have work to do. And when you mention these young students over here, yes, we've screwed some stuff up that you guys are going to have to fix. We've given you some examples of what can be done when we put our best together, and we really look forward to working with the youth as well as those of us that are a little more seasoned to finally help us be successful in our march towards equity. This is kind of a regional convening, if you will. We had the first one in Michigan a couple of weeks ago. I guess it was about a month ago now. We have several other ones coming up. And you'll see the next one, thank you, Lionel, we'll see the next one coming up in May in Georgia. And we have a series of these events across the country. And this is meant to get some feedback from the communities that we are bound to serve, but to get some feedback from the communities that we're bound to serve to make sure that what we're doing is what we're supposed to be doing. And that is making sure that everyone has access to a USDA that is more equitable, providing better programs and services, and really reaching people where they are. So we really look forward to that. You'll see a series of them, and we're trying to cover the country. Because the one thing I've learned in this role is, you know, we have a lot of similarities. And I was very familiar with probably some of the travails of black farmers. I'm a third generation farmer myself. A lot of you know that. But it's really been interesting to see the parallels between a Latino, an Asian, a Native American, a small farmer, a vegetable farmer, an organic farmer. It's been amazing just the similarities and what we can do when we put our collective heads together to try and do this. We've done this across the department. The Equity Commission is one of what I call 3 strategic pillars that we have to be successful in our march towards equity. There's another one, we call it DEIA. It's about making sure that this department, from a personnel standpoint, is reflective of the diverse American public that we're bound to serve. Another piece is a programmatic equity. Across all the mission areas, the programmatic equity that has to be there so that our programs address disparities and put in place things that will help us overcome those, again, as we march towards equity. I've had the pleasure of working with several bright colleagues across the department. And I'm now going to introduce you to one of those colleagues, Stacy Dean. Stacy is kind of at the tip of the area, if you will, when it comes to making sure that our food systems are as equitable as they need to be. She serves as the Deputy Undersecretary for Food, Nutrition, and Consumer Sciences. In this role, she works across the department to advance President Biden's agenda on how we increase nutrition assistance for families across the country, and how we work across the department to tackle some systemic racism and barriers that for too long have kept people from having access to a healthy and affordable food supply. Prior to joining USDA, Stacy served as a Vice President for Food Assistance Policy at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. She directed their food assistance team and published frequent reports on how federal nutrition programs affect families and communities. She also developed policies to help improve delivery of those same programs. In addition, she led their efforts to integrate the delivery of health and human service programs at both the state and the local levels. She worked before joining that organization, she worked as a budget analyst at the Office of Management and Budget. She is not from down here in the Rio Grande Valley, I don't think. Her degrees come from the University of Michigan. But again, Deputy Undersecretary Dean, it's been a pleasure to work with you, and I look forward to hearing your comments on our food systems march towards equity. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Stacy Dean.
All right, well, thank you, Dr. Goldman, for that lovely introduction. I think all of that is to say I'm a policy wonk, so I hope you all will bear with me. It's really a great honor to be with you all today, and I want to extend my deep appreciation to all of the people who pulled this together. I think the fact that so many organizations were a part of this, so many different groups are here today, really speaks to the strength of community here. Food systems work is a community issue, and I've only been here a couple days, but I've absolutely felt the warmth and strength of this community. So really pleased to be here. And of course, it's an honor to represent USDA, my colleagues from USDA. We have a lot of folks here from USDA, and I think that speaks to, one, the importance of what you're doing here, the importance of us wanting to show up in community, and really how much we want to hear from you about what we're talking about, what are we saying, what are we planning on doing, how does that land, and where can we continue to do better. So I'm just going to tick off some of the folks that you'll be hearing from today from the leadership level at USDA, and there's so many other USDA leaders here. You're going to hear from Deputy Undersecretary Sana Bang and a panel of students right after this as they discuss their lived experiences with farming. You're going to also hear from me again, on another group of experts on nutrition security, on combating food deserts. Some of my colleagues, including Dr. Elisa Ramirez, will discuss their efforts to support upward mobility for farm workers. You're going to hear from AMS Chief Kate Fitzgerald and some local partners about efforts to strengthen supply chains and transform the nation's food system. And that's just a few of them. There's so much more. So you'll also hear from Dr. Alicia Shipley from NIFA about our urban ag work. And I think to end things tomorrow, Undersecretary Jenny Lester Moffitt and other leaders will be talking about our local food systems transformation work to build deeper resilience in the food system. So when I say we're showing up, we're showing up. And that is because this work is so important to us. It's only real, right, if it's something that we do together. And so we want to talk about it, but we also want to listen. And so as your professor said, if you see someone who looks important, and I appreciate that, maybe he meant older, please find us, or, kind of looks like a Fed, find us, tell us your truth. That's really, we're serious, and that's why we're holding all of these sessions, and doing more to listen. So, all of this action that we're doing is to work to build trust, to assess or to address the systemic issues and to improve service to the people that, as Dr. Goldman said, we are bound to serve and who have been underserved by us in the past. We call ourselves, I think, the People's Department, but we have not always been the department of all the people. And that is its core what we're seeking to address. But we don't get to decide that. You do. You get to hold us to account as to whether we are living up to our mission. So just briefly, I want to restate what Dr. Goldman said and some of what you've heard over the past few days about our equity work. I think I'm saying the same thing, but slightly, it's from where I sit in the department. The secretary charged each missionary, and there are 8 of us. I'm food, there's natural resources, farm, research, it goes on, to develop our own comprehensive equity plans to incorporate it into the work that we do. And we've done that. I mean, that starts by taking a very hard look of where we've fallen short and sorting out actions for the future. And I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing in the food nutrition service in a moment. But we can't do that work just internally, right? Because of course that is a closed mindset around, and is limited to our own thinking and our own understanding of what the problems are. That's why it was so important for the Secretary to set up the Equity Commission to create an external entity to also give us that important and hard feedback and to provide us recommendations and to hold us to account for moving forward. We received those recommendations in February, and this isn't just Dr. Goldman and the Equity Commission and some of the leaders from that space saying this happened and it's moving forward. I want you to know, we are taking all of this incredibly seriously. It is a part of our core mission work within each mission area and part of our strategic plan and the work that we must undertake each and every day. The third part of this work, I think, is doing this. It's being in community and talking about the work that we have committed to do. What have we, and articulating the problems, hearing more about the problems, setting forth a plan, and then again, get this continuous feedback loop, which it helps accelerate our efforts, but it also holds us to account. So that's why we're here, and we're delighted to be here. So I want to just spend a few minutes talking about how we're thinking about equity work in the food nutrition service, which is the area of the department that I lead. At the core of our approach to advance food and nutrition security in the administration are the 16 federal nutrition programs that we operate. They reach tens of millions of Americans every day. 1 in 4 Americans over the course of a year interact with one of our food programs. And we serve people through 19,000 school districts, over 100,000 schools, child care centers, in people's homes, through more than 250,000 retail food stores each and every day. That's incredible power when we think about the issue of food and nutrition security. They are far-reaching, powerful tools available to strengthen the food system and ensure that everyone in this country, it's a more positive frame than no one goes hungry, but that everyone has access to healthy, safe, affordable food to support optimal health and well-being, right? That's the goal we should be going for. Not that no one goes hungry, but that we all have access to food that supports optimal health and well-being. And this work is incredibly important and couldn't be coming at a more important time. Because we've heard this morning, we have serious issues with food insecurity and nutrition insecurity in this country. According to USDA's research, 13% of Americans struggle to afford to get access to food. And in Texas, that number is about 15.5% of Texans, at least according to our research, struggle to have access to a basic healthy diet. Poor nutrition is the leading cause of death in the United States, and there's profound disparity in the way that both of these issues manifest. So I gave you the overall food insecurity numbers, but for Black and Latino individuals, those numbers are 2 to 3 times the rates for white Americans, and for indigenous individuals, it's 3 times. For households headed by single mothers, also 2 to 3 times the rates of white Americans. And current estimates predict that 2/3 of today's 2-year-olds who are Black and Latino will have obesity by the time they're 35, compared to half of today's white 2-year-olds. So a problem across all demographics, but the way it presents, there's just profound disparity in who experiences these issues. So the question for us is, how do we leverage our power where we already reach 1 in 4 Americans to tackle these issues? We know, I guess that work starts with understanding why are these disparities presenting? Why are we seeing differences? And it's really just, the work has to begin by recognizing that structural inequity, historical racism make it hard for people to eat healthy and be physically active, right? That problem starts upstream in the way it presents for what we're trying to deal with. And so that's why I want to go back to our approach to nutrition security, and that's where we've tried to move beyond the issue of food insecurity, which is really about adequate calories and you're getting enough food. We don't want to make sure that folks just have enough food. We want to make sure that they are fed well. So we define nutrition security as consistent and equitable access to healthy, safe, affordable food, essential to optimal health and well-being. So I know I said it before, but I want to say it again because I think all of those components are really important. And you can't get there. We don't want to just lower the numbers. We need to lower the gap between who is experiencing these issues. So we have 4 basic pillars in how we think about this work. And I'll just give you the framework so then we can talk about some of the things we're trying to do to advance equity in the space. And we, first is we want to make sure that all of the support we're providing is meaningful. To support the individuals from pregnancy to birth and beyond. Is the package of benefits that we're giving rooted in the dietary guidelines? Is it informed by how much it actually costs to afford a basic diet? Is it responsive to all of the different food traditions that individuals have and flexible to accommodate, not accommodate, flexible to be responsive to the ways that people eat. And we've done a number of things under that front that I'm very proud of to make sure that the support we're offering is more meaningful and drives better health. The second is that we want to make sure we're connecting all Americans to healthy, safe, affordable food sources. So again, it's one thing to have access to a food, but is it food that drives and supports better health? And that's why we're making so many investments, whether it's through our area, through research and NIFA, or through our friends at the Agricultural Marketing Service, to make better connections between, for example, fruits and vegetables and individuals who can't afford to purchase those foods on their own, whether it's supporting more grocery stores and food deserts, plussing up benefits to use at local farmers markets for local produce, or I'm trying to think of, supporting food banks to purchase from local producers, again, fresh produce from local producers, so that we're putting more healthy foods into the emergency food system. Third is we are developing, translating, and enacting nutrition science through partnership. You might think it's the Department of Health, but we actually spend the most money on nutrition education throughout our portfolio. But the money isn't enough if it doesn't come to life and doesn't feel real to the folks that we're trying to help inform and educate. So one of the things, for example, we're trying to do, I don't know if you're familiar with My Plate, which is the way that we try to translate dietary guidelines into more understandable, actionable information, is My Plate has to represent all traditions and cultures, all food palettes, all foods. And we took a look and realized, we don't, all of America can't see themselves in the dietary and nutrition science that we're presenting. So that's an example of where we're trying to work with new and different partners and also reflect all of America. And then through all of this, we have to prioritize equity every step of the way. These things don't work. Again, if our goal isn't just to improve food insecurity and make sure that we're improving nutrition security, we've got to address and deal with the disparities that exist for different groups in that space. So that's the goal and the purpose, right? That's our framework. But let me talk to you about some of the things that we've done. And we did, by the way, we've got a lot of equity action plans downstairs. We brought ours, the Food and Nutrition Service Equity Action Plan, and we've got a few here, and there are more downstairs at the table. And I really hope you take a look at it and give us your feedback. I'm going to run through some of the things that we're doing. So first, I wanted to say, this doesn't start with just popping out a bunch of policy recommendations. We had to do some, and we are still doing, hard work inside of FNS. We've got to build awareness amongst our own staff, and some of our key partners are in the sizable body of research indicating structural racism, structural and historical racism, and other forms of bigotry harm health in ways that can be described, measured, and dismantled. That is very real, but we didn't have a consistent understanding of that internal to FNS and again across all of our partners. And so talking about the problem, the many problems, is very important, so that way we can then connect some of the actions that we need to take, and we can measure whether we're making improvement. So as we work to remove the barriers to our program, again, it's taking down all walls, and particularly the walls that result in disparity. So I want to give you some examples of some of the things we've done, and I'll just briefly give you the problem concept and then maybe what we did. I see David in the back. So the first thing I want to talk about is territorial parity in the territories with access to food assistance. We don't offer the federal food programs in the territories the same way that we do in the states, despite the fact that the territories are a part of this nation and the individuals living there are citizens. And it has resulted in extraordinary disparity with the respect of health and food security in the territories. So the president has a stated position of wanting to have parity in the territories with respect to all of our assistance programs. That's actually an action that Congress has to take. But we could step back and say, you know what, that's on Congress. We're going to wait for them to get it together. That's the wrong approach, right? The right approach is to say our goal is for things to be consistent and equal. You may not actually know how the programs work in the other areas. How about we spend some time with you talking about how they work, what they would look like, so that you can be at the table, territory X, Y, or Z, or 5, talking about your vision for your future. We have a responsibility to make investments, to support and do everything that we possibly can to make sure that the territories have a seat at the table when decisions are being made about them. So that's been a big shift in our work there. And I will say that we have been able to use our authority to give the Commonwealth of Northern Marianas essentially full parity with respect to food household assistance, because we had that authority and we weren't using it. And now we have. So I'm very proud of that. We had an experience, for example, another issue is we know that the emergency food system does not work as well in rural and remote areas who may not have the food banking infrastructure to take USDA foods and make it available. So we've created a grant program specifically focused on how do we open up and better support rural and remote areas. Maybe they need infrastructure, trucks or warehouse investments. Maybe they need more staffing. We did not have awareness in that because our foods went to where our foods could be received. So if we're only talking to the people that we're working with, we're not hearing about where our food isn't going to. And the pandemic illustrated to us we weren't getting where we needed to go. So we're working on that. We've expanded access to indigenous and traditional foods through our school meals programs. We want kids to see themselves in the foods that we're eating. Well, there was a barrier there because we didn't credit or recognize the foods, which made it very hard for food service administrators to serve the foods that might be responsive to what their communities wanted. We're trying to modernize the WIC program, which is a special program for women, infants, and children. 40% of our nation's infants participate in this program. But we are only reaching about half of those who are eligible. And we decided, okay, we need to reach more folks. So let's start by talking to WIC participants and individuals who aren't participating in WIC about why is that? That's pretty unusual for us. We don't actually start in community. We usually sit in our offices in Washington, D.C. behind computers and we think, hey, I've got a grant program idea that will solve that problem. We needed to ground ourselves with to hear from individuals about what they needed and wanted. And one of the ways we did that was listening in focus groups, but then 2, providing resources to a third-party partner to go out to community groups to give them grants to try to reach folks so that we could hear, come on in, you're very welcome, come on in, to ground ourselves in what's needed. We're recognizing plant-based foods in all of our programs, not just talking about it, but doing the hard work of opening up our systems so that they're more responsive and reflective of all the ranges of diets that folks have. And another example of what we're doing is some of our programs can sanction or penalize individuals if they don't take a behavior that we want them to do. That's just baked into how those programs are designed. We're taking a look at who we're sanctioning and who we're penalizing. It's my assumption that that's not being applied equally or equitably, and it's never been looked at before. How could we possibly be terminating people from food assistance programs and never looking at who is being terminated and wondering, are these penalties being applied fairly and equally? So these are little things along the way. They represent just a handful of the multitude of actions that we're taking to strengthen the core benefits that we offer and open up the programs to folks that we have not served, to be the people's nutrition programs. And I really look forward to hearing from you about how that's going and where we can do better. We need feedback. we need to feedback on how we're doing. We need feedback to set our next set of priorities so that we can refresh and revitalize the equity plan as we knock off each of the things that we're doing. I know it's just the beginning. And I also want to underscore, you heard me talk about the what that we're doing, because that's really important, but it's also the how we're doing it. Who are we talking to? Who's telling us whether we're being successful? And who's at the table when we're making decisions? The how, to me, is almost more important than the what, because I don't know what we should do, what we should fix, unless I'm talking to the right folks. And we're shifting the power dynamic about who's making decisions for what USDA has to do to address food and nutrition insecurity in this country. So it's a really exciting time. It's really exciting, and I'm just so thrilled to be with all of you, and can't thank you enough for coming and spending 2 days of your life when you do incredibly important work serving your community to talk about food equity and nutrition security. We're so grateful for your efforts to make sure that everyone gets the nutritious food that they need and that they deserve. And I want to celebrate all of you, and I'm delighted to kick off day one of this incredible day. So thank you all. You're wonderful. Now I want to invite Bella Wood up to get us going with our first panel. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. We're so thrilled that you're all here for day 3 of our collaborative event with the Texas Hispanic Farmer and Rancher Conference and the Food Summit. And thank you those of you who joined us for the last 2 days. We've got 2 more days and a lot of exciting things coming up. I want to really thank our speakers in advance. We've put together a fantastic group of people who will really get stuff done. So I'm very thrilled. Also, I would really like to thank our planning team. It's been a pleasure to work over the last 6 months with Robert Maggiani and Luz Ballesteros from NCAT, Aisha Cruz Reyes from UTRGV, Dr. Alexis Rossellis, and Sam Bell. It has been an absolute pleasure, and this would not be the event that it is without them. So, over the next 2 days, you'll be hearing from experts, stakeholders, and you all. I'm focusing there. And from you all to think about and understand the vision going forward for the food system in the Valley, to use the Valley as an example of food systems all over. So there's a reason we wanted to start with the youth summit, or the youth panel, excuse me. The younger generations, we're going to be the ones who are carrying out the policy that is created today. So young voices need to be included in creating that policy. Tomorrow, there will be a visual representation of how young people see the Food Summit. That's going to be the Photo Voice project, and we encourage everyone to come back and look at a visual of how young people see our food system going forward, how they see it right now. So, in this panel, moderated by Mackenzie Feldman, we will hear about the experiences that students have with farming and what has shaped their relationship to the food system. And it's my pleasure to introduce the Deputy Undersecretary of Research, Education, and Economics, Sana Baig. She has served at the USDA under 2 presidential administrations and was appointed most recently by President Biden in her role right now. So it is my absolute pleasure to introduce her as well, and I look forward to speaking with everyone over the next couple days. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. I'm so happy to see you all here. Appreciate your joining us. Oh, okay. Okay, great. Thank you. First of all, I just want to thank you, Bella. I want to thank you, Dr. Rossellis, for putting together such an impactful program. And I wanted to also address Dr. Goldman's comment, which is, especially for the young people, if you look around and see somebody important, to go up and talk to them, introduce yourself, somebody that might look like a Fed. But I also want to say that not all of us look like Feds, okay? So, don't judge a book by its cover, and just be willing to share your story, and, share and be willing to listen and learn, which has really been the theme of the past couple of days. I have been struck, overwhelmed by what I felt in this community, the compassion, the service mindset, the connectedness of everyone here. And I want to thank you for making us all feel, those of us from out of town, my colleagues from USDA, not just feel welcome, but, feel included, feel like we belong, and more than anything, feel inspired. Because we've been talking a lot about challenges, but there are so many creative solutions already being deployed right here in the Valley that we have a lot to learn from. And so that has been a theme. I appreciated my colleague, Deputy Undersecretary Dean and Dr. Goldman, talking about the importance of being in community and learning and taking this information back with us so we can better tailor all of our programs and services to meet your needs. Now, the Department of Agriculture is gigantic. We heard there are 8 different mission areas across USDA. We have more than 100,000 people that work for the Department of Agriculture. The federal government is the largest employer of people in this country. There is huge opportunity for impact, and we need you. We need you to work inside of this system to change the system. That will be something that we'll be talking about a little bit more on the panel today. I want to touch upon, though, before we get to the important part, which is hearing from some of our young leaders, the imperative that we've heard reiterated time and time again over the past couple of days, which is we truly believe that we must support local food production and consumption. And we need to focus on helping those who have been left behind, those who need the help most, our children, our families, our small farmers, our farm workers, our new Americans. We're here for you. And we need to better understand how we can do better. Where do we go from here? We've done a lot of work over the past 3 years under this administration, and now we're taking stock. We're sharing with you what we've done in order for us to build that next chapter. So, like you, those of us at the Department of Agriculture, we know deeply that when our farmers do well, our communities do well. And when harnessed correctly, agriculture has been and must continue to be a tool for lasting and transformative change. A tool that can reduce the inequalities that you heard about just a moment ago, but can also build compassion and nourish not just our bodies, but our souls. And we see that opportunity to transform our food and ag systems to benefit, as the Secretary says, the many and the most instead of just the few. That has honestly been how our system has been set up over the past 50, 60 years, and it will take time to make sure that we're building opportunity for all of us. And we're at the beginning, but we're committed to it. We envision a system in which every community has access not just to affordable, nutritious, and culturally appropriate foods, but that they're given the tools and the support to incorporate them into their diets and to their school meals. A system that brings that opportunity right here into the Valley for our farmers, our rural communities, and our youth. And in talking with you all, I really feel that we have this vision, we share this vision together. And of course, we can't do it alone. That's why we need partnerships. And that's something that my team at the Department of Agriculture has been investing in quite heavily. Investing in partnerships, investing in science and innovation, which is really the foundation of being able to have a thriving, a nourishing, a climate-smart food system. And those partnerships on the ground enable us to deploy, to both develop solutions, let's talk about, that actually serve your needs, not just sitting up in Washington, D.C. and thinking about a good idea, but actually being in community, co-creating those solutions and then deploying them together. So we've been able to do that, thankfully, through the American Rescue Plan and deploying solutions, not just to communities with benefits and connections and privilege, but we're investing heavily in deployment, and I wanted to call attention to this new program, the American Rescue Plan that USDA invested in, the American Rescue Plan Technical Assistance Investment Program. We call it our 1006 Cooperators. We've invested $100 million in about 34 organizations all over the country to break down those barriers that we know exist for all of you to get connected to USDA programs and services, to get benefit from our research that we do, our farmer-led research, our land grant and community college and HSI-led research. We have a couple of our cooperators here with us, actually, that I want to thank, including the National Young Farmers Coalition. I know Carolina is here. Thank you for your good work. It's incredibly important. I don't know if Amelia is here from NIFI, the National Immigrant Farmer Initiative. I know she is from the region, but NIFI is also one of our cooperators that is making sure that new immigrants, those of us who are new to the communities, can prosper and have access to USDA programs and be able to build a life that they deserve. And in addition to all of that, we have to build our vision for the future through our investments in young people. That has really been one of the core goals of the department and through our secretary. And we also have been putting our money where our mouth is. Again, thanks to investments and new legislation passed by Congress under the leadership of this president, we have put more than $250 million to work directly to support our minority serving institutions across the country. So $262.5 million, a historic investment that we made through a program called the Next Gen program. And that is to ensure that students like all of you, who have very unique lived experiences and also might not have ever gotten exposure to careers in food and agriculture and nutrition and conservation and health, you have an opportunity to do it. And not just an opportunity, but Next Gen will provide paid internships, scholarships, fellowships, experiential learning, job matching, so you can work with feds like me and community-based organizations like the National Young Farmers Coalition and NIFI to understand what your pathway could be, how you can further your impact, because I know you have that heart. We have more than 60 institutions partnering with us through the Next Gen program over the next 5 years, and that investment will train and support more than 20,000 young people that look like America. And that includes right here in Texas. We actually have 5 grantees in the state of Texas working on a variety of different initiatives to prepare students to take on leadership roles in the public and the private sectors. And that includes a really impressive team from Austin Community College. And ACC is a partner on one of the grants awarded to Texas State University for a project that will create a first of its kind internship hub to offer students, again, those paid, we need paid internships, we're valuing that, and mentoring opportunities in addition to that, especially with federal and state agencies that can be hard to reach, especially for those who don't have access. And I actually met Savannah Rugg, Dr. Rugg, here a couple of days ago at the student poster session, and I was blown away by what she shared and the stories of the students that she brought with her. And I'd like to share a little bit about them. See, Dr. Rugg actually studied here at UT RGV under the mentorship and leadership of Dr. Aceles. And, just a few years later, you are now the department chair for agricultural sciences at ACC. That is remarkable. That is remarkable. Yes. And we're proud because USDA NIFA, our National Institute of Food and Agriculture, one of the 4 agencies that I help lead, received a USDA HSI education grant in 2017. And Dr. Rugg, through that funding, was able to build the agricultural science department and has built 2 different degree programs as a result of that support, including a workforce degree in sustainable agriculture. Now, I used to work in the community college system. This is pretty novel. This is very impressive. And I wish I could go back and take your courses. In 2019, she started with 6 students in her program, and now is up to 48, including 21 of whom are Hispanic. And 2 students came with Dr. Rugg here to McAllen, to the region, and I see Julio standing there in the back. Good morning, Julio. Thank you for being with us. Yeah. Now Julio received a scholarship from this program, the USD HSI Education Grants Program, and is currently pursuing his Ag Associates and plans to transfer to a 4-year institution to continue his degree in agriculture. And I hope it's okay to share, Julio, but I was so struck by your story. Julio unfortunately had an accident in which he experienced a traumatic brain injury. And he had a passion for math, and he realized that that might not be something that he could continue moving forward. And he was lucky enough to be at ACC and to meet Dr. Rugg and enroll in the coursework there. And being on a sustainable student farm, he shared with me, has been such a therapeutic experience for him and inspired him to pursue a career in agriculture. That is incredible. That's an incredible story, and I'm so glad you were able to get that healing and find your passion. And you mentioned, you didn't realize that there was so much math in agriculture, but there is. So you can leverage your talent in that way to apply it to a career in agriculture. And now we also had another student, I don't know if she's here, Claudia. Now, Claudia, the minute I told her I'm from USDA, she said, "Oh my gosh, thank you." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, it's because of this same NIFA grant that I've been able to change my life." Now, she had also a very unique experience coming to this country, moving back to this country with very little resources, managing a health challenge. And now she is going to be able to fulfill her dreams of working on soil and remediation. And I'm told that she's been accepted into Texas State University and going to start this fall. So that is the impact of the programs and the investments that we make in young people. And I know, Dr. Rugg, you actually went to University of California, Santa Cruz. And the last quick story that I want to share is about a student I met there. Now, UC Santa Cruz is another one of our Next Gen partners. And I met a young man named Mauricio. Now, Mauricio worked, his family were farm workers in the Valley in California. And he was passionate about robotics and AI. And he didn't want to go back and work on a farm in the way that his family did. But what he knew was that they were exerting themselves, very obviously taxing on your knees, on your shoulders, on your back, to weed those organic specialty crop fields by hand. So he was able to apply his robotics, AI, tech skills to create a small autonomous robot that could weed those fields and could be affordable enough for the elders, everybody in his community to use. So young people, I want you to know that you don't need to be a farmer to help a farmer. You can put whatever passion you have to work, to feed us, to nourish us, to make sure we have nutrition security and that we have prosperity in our communities. And now it's my honor to be able to transition to what I hope is going to be a really lively and interesting conversation with some of the young leaders that are going to be a part of this 20,000 person investment that we're making into the future and beyond to build the vision that I talked about a little bit earlier. I just want to say that our young people are truly our partners in building this future. We really see you. We want you to have opportunities to lead and to bring your ideas to Washington, to bring it to the state legislatures, to bring it to your counties. We need you, and we look forward to supporting you. So without further ado, it is my great pleasure to introduce somebody that I have been so inspired by, Mackenzie Feldman, who is a trailblazer in food systems, and she will lead us through a panel where I will mostly be listening, and you'll have a chance to be inspired as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks. All right, who's ready to hear from some young people? Amazing. Thank you so much, Deputy Undersecretary, for introducing and setting up the framework for this conversation. My name is Mackenzie Feldman. I'm a graduate student here at UTRGV in the agroecology program. And I run an organization called Rewild Your Campus, and we work with schools to eliminate pesticides from campuses. And in the past, I started it as a student activist, and I've run it now for 7 years and have mentored hundreds of students at over 100 schools. And I say that to say that having the opportunity to have worked with so many young people, I think we can all understand that young people are craving opportunities to get engaged. We're sick of hearing about, climate chaos in class and having no tools to do anything about it. And I think what I hope you'll take away from this conversation is just how inspiring these young people are and how powerful it is when we give students the opportunities to make change. So thank you for being here, and I really look forward to this conversation. So to start, I would love for you all to just go around and introduce yourself, where are you at school, and just a little bit about your introduction to food systems and what are you doing in relation to food systems? Yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is Apolonio Flores. I am an environmental science sophomore at UTRGV. I work with the agroecology department under Dr. Roselli's. So I work within the Hub of Prosperity Farm and the organic garden, and that was really my first introduction to agriculture. So yeah.
My name is Emily Ortega. I started probably like in elementary. We had gardens, and it was really fun. I like planting, so yeah.
Hi, my name's Savannah West. I am a freshman at Idea Quest, and I got into farming with my uncles, so it really inspired me. So.
Hi, my name's Olivia. I go to UTRGV. I'm in the undergrad program for sustainable agriculture and resilient food systems with Dr. Roselli's. And I also work at the farm and garden at UTRGV.
Awesome, thank you. And for the deputy, I think there's so many students here. I think we'd all love to hear just a little bit about your journey and how you ended up in this position and kind of your journey in food systems.
Well, thank you. I feel like I talked a lot, but I hope I'll be quick and just say that I started by chance with an internship at USDA and in the Agricultural Research Service when I was in college. And at that point, I had a lot of questions, like all of you, about why do we have dietary guidelines that tell us to eat a certain way, and yet maybe we're not producing things that match our dietary guidelines? I had a lot of questions. Why do things work the way that they do? Climate change at that time was kind of newer in the vernacular. We were worried about water, continue to be worried about water, drought, increased, severity of weather events. And I was inspired to do something about it. And I didn't quite know how. I thought I would be a diplomat. I thought I would go, and work in different parts of the world, especially in the global south. I really was focused on I wanted to help women and help women have empowerment and access to really heal themselves and be self-sustainable. And I thought agriculture could be a tool for that. But when I had that internship at USDA and ARS, I realized, first of all, it takes a lot of science and innovation to solve these problems. It takes a lot of global partnerships, and we have a lot of need right here at home. So that internship kind of changed my entire trajectory and said, I really want to focus domestically. I really want to commit myself to food systems transformation. I had a chance to serve in the Obama administration, had a variety of different roles. I worked at a nonprofit called the Good Food Institute, really helping to bring complementary production systems, leverage food technology and innovation, and make sure that we can meet that gap, right? As the population grows and we have more than 9 billion mouths to feed by 2050, we already have issues around delivery, right? We can grow enough food, but can we get it to the right places? How do we fill that gap too in terms of making sure we can produce? And then I was invited back by President Biden to serve in this administration, and I'm honored and I'm grateful to be the youngest person ever appointed to my role. And all of you can do it too.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's really inspiring. Savannah, I would love to start with you. I know you mentioned a little bit about farming with your uncle, but just when you were talking to me about your time in Alabama, and I was just really struck with your story. So if you could share a little bit about that, and then kind of about now your experience at school with gardening and how it's impacted you.
When I was little, I would travel to Alabama every summer, of course, because my brother was in college. So we would go visit. When I was with my uncles and my mom was with my brother, me and him would always go. It was so funny. We would always go to the farm. We'd pick cabbages, strawberries, and all that. And then we'll go and deliver them to some of his friends who don't have enough. And it just really inspires me. And now at school, Miss Hidalgo, my teacher,
If you're a teacher, if you are a teacher for any of these students here, can you just please stand up? Teacher, social worker, please stand up. We'd love to just see. Awesome. Thank you for being here. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. And when she said that we started going to the farm, I was so excited that I literally went home and started yapping to my mom. We're going to the farm, Mom. We're going to get cabbages. And me and my friend Monica, we planted our cabbage. We named it Cabby after our favorite, after our teacher. And yeah, I just really like going to the farm.
Yeah. And you for a while, you were not wanting to go to the farm anymore after your uncle had passed away. And then what changed for you?
Well, Miss Hidalgo, really. I don't know, just how being at the farm. How being at the farm. How being at the farm really, brought me to tears, because, it reminds me of my uncle, and, we were so close.
Yeah.
And it just really brought me back, and I feel closer to him now that I'm at the farm. And yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Thank you. And Apollonio, I know when you got a job at the university farm, your parents were maybe a little not super thrilled about that, because of their experience working in agriculture. And I'd love for you to just share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so to say they were happy would be a lie. Okay, I guess I'll give a little bit of backstory. So my parents are both immigrants from Mexico. And with that comes, being at the front lines in agriculture, working as laborers, working as farm workers for many, many years. And, some days up to 10 hours a day, which is an extreme amount to be under the Texas heat. Even going outside for my little shifts at the garden is a lot for me. So you could imagine where they're coming from. I understand fully why they have this perception, and I think in general, it really speaks to how younger people view agriculture and how there's so much resentment and concern over what it means to be an agricultural worker here. The Valley has historically been, unfortunately, an area where farm workers are not treated fairly, especially those who are people of color and who are immigrants from other places. And just changing that relationship and that dynamic is really what I want to see in my food system and what we all want to, create for our future. I know that we wouldn't want a food system where our environment and our production is thriving if it comes at the expense of our farm workers and our people who are, our families. So it really is just about um, it's about just making sure that these people are not, taken advantage of, and that there's living wages and benefits and, just health throughout like their families, and just being able to sustain themselves in a realistic way with inflation and with rising costs, because I know that for them it wasn't enough to support themselves, and I know that they had to transition into doing all these other jobs to put me where I'm at right now and to have me here in university. And while it was an extreme reaction, I really do understand, and it's not a sentiment that's unique to myself. It's something that we can all relate to, and I know that my peers have had similar experiences. So yeah.
And Emily, I think you've had similar experiences as Savannah, getting to work in a garden at your school. Could you share a little bit about that and your journey working with your school's garden?
I think it was really fun. Like, I get to learn a lot. Like, there's stuff like I didn't know before. Is it on? Oh, my bad. It was an experience. Like, when I was little, I liked it, but I kind of like fell out of it, and it helped. Like I had problems, and like when I went to the garden, like it like frees your mind, and then I don't want to cry. Wait.
It's okay. We already got one crier at this point. Just keep it coming.
I don't remember makeup. Wait. Like, it really helped, and my teacher is really sweet. He's really there. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna cry. Thank you. Oh my God, I'm crying.
We got more too. So.
My teacher is really supportive. He's a really great man. He really helped. He helped me learn a lot about the garden, about planning, and like going home, like I went and I started like planning things myself. It's really good. I think the community needs more gardens. Like it helps like with responsibility, because when you plant, you can't just go plant and leave it there and let it go. Like, you have to take care of it. You have to watch it grow. You have to nourish it. And I think it's a really good experience, and I think a lot of schools like need more gardens, like my school did, or it was my previous school. My school that I attend now, I think it deserves a garden. Like, I think it'll help people. It's like really stress relieving. It helps you mature, like learn responsibility mainly. So yeah, I think the community really like needs more gardens, maybe more in the middle schools, to help them learn to be a little bit more responsible, because some of them aren't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was really fun. It was a really good experience. I think a lot of people should experience it. It's like, it will really help you, maybe change it too.
When you got to Buell, did you know there was going to be a garden and chickens and all that?
No, it's because Buell's a disciplinary campus. So when I was in my previous school, I made mistakes, which everyone does. So
Yeah.
I don't like throw myself down for it. But when I got to Buell, I thought it was mainly gonna be like a lot of discipline. I mean, it was, but it's not as bad as I expected it to be. Like, it was really fun. It's an experience. They teach you a lot. You learn a lot about like yourself and the other people, and just things like about the garden. The garden helped. Like, I learned like certain soils, like what's it called, like fertilizers you can use, like, and then we had a compost bin. So it was a lot. I learned a lot, and I think a lot of like elementary should do it too. I've seen some, but a lot of them aren't really included like that. And I think it'd be good for the kids. They'd have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're administrator here or teacher wondering whether to invest in a garden program, and also I just want to shout out, Rocio gave me this. Rocio is the head of she's a farm school manager of the IDEA public schools in the region. And if you are wondering whether it's worth it to invest in school gardens, I just take this and read through it, because the testimonies from these students in here are so inspiring, and Rocio is so inspiring, another former student of Dr. Rosales, and just speaks to Dr. Rosales' mentorship. And yeah, Rocio, you're killing it out there. And I agree with everything that you're saying. Just the importance. I mean, there's many stories in here like what you just shared. So read this if you want to hear more. And now I want to get to Olivia. Olivia, I feel like you've been involved in so many food-related and environmental-related work since you've been a student at UTRGV. And yeah, I would love to just hear a little bit about your experience and how working at the Hub has impacted you, and anything else you'd like to share.
Yes, so I've been working at the Hub since I came to the Valley.
And I guess, can you just explain one more time what the Hub is in case anyone
Yes.
doesn't know? Yeah.
The Hub of Prosperity Farm is a partnership between the First United Methodist Church, here's Michelle, the pastor up here, and UTRGV. So Dr. Acelis and Stephanie Casper put together this farm, and Maria works there too. I don't know where she is, but yes, they have been wonderful. This partnership is kind of like a dream. I perplexed, I don't know, by how beautiful it has been. And I hope that more gardens and farms are created out of partnerships like the one at the Hub with the church. And yeah, so it's a small farm, and there are multiple plots, and they're managed by some full-time staff members at the university, and then also student staff, and volunteers are also welcome during most weekdays and weekends. There's also a farm stand on Saturdays during the productive times of this growing seasons. So there's like a variety of crops that the small farm can provide based on all of the different things that can be grown at a smaller scale together at the same time. But yeah, that's kind of the farm.
Did you have an aha moment before you came to UTRGV or at school when you realized like you wanted to work in food systems?
Yes, I think I've always like seen gardens and farms around. I grew up in Coppell, Texas, which is 20 minutes away from Dallas, Texas. I wasn't really exposed to agriculture like at all growing up, but I had seen gardens and farms, and I appreciated the therapeutic aspects of gardening and farming, and I didn't ever see myself like going into it because I just didn't. It was like a whole different world. But during the pandemic, I took a class at a university in Colorado related to sustainability sciences. It was like a required course for first-year students, and a permaculture class. It was a really awesome class, and I was blown away by my professors, Professor Bauer, Professor Polk, and Professor Parrish. They connected me with an opportunity to volunteer at Frontline Farming in Colorado. I mean, what? Like that's your first experience? Anyways, and so I asked my professors at my first university in Colorado, hey, how do I like get involved in agriculture more? I would love to stay here at this school. I mean, it's served me very well, but I would also love to like do it in the most hands-on way as possible. And so they told me like, go back to Texas. Like, what are you doing here? And I love Colorado. Like the mountains, like everything is so beautiful. And I was like, you guys are so right. So I emailed Dr. Acelis. I don't know where he is right now, but I emailed him. And I was like, how hands-on is your program? I have questions. I want to know more. And he responded to me, and he was like, you seem like a great fit for this program. After some conversation, you should definitely check it out. And my family history, oddly, is from the Valley in some ways, in South Texas. My dad was born and raised in El Paso. My great-great-grandma started a Methodist church in Mission, Texas. So there was some connection, and my parents were very confused why I was going back to South Texas. My dad worked his butt off to get into a master's program and move to Dallas and work in sales of electronics, and my mom in legal work. So they were like, I was hoping I would become a doctor based on my interest in medical sciences in high school. But I think I was just like way more interested in creative work and hands-on stuff. So yeah, it just happened, and it has been a blessing to work with students at the university my best friend Samantha Martin. I met her at the school garden. And my teachers, like, I'm just every day I wake up, and not every day is easy as a student in college, I will say, but like I'm just so inspired by the adults in my life and the people who have made life worth living. You guys, like, have been awesome.
Just want to pass this down. Thanks, Olivia. Deputy, I know you already mentioned this next gen investment, and some of that money going to, historically underserved and underfunded communities and schools, like UTRGV is one, Hispanic serving institution that's a beneficiary of that. And I would love for you to just talk a little bit more about that. But first, I want to just ask the students, why is it, from your perspective, important to invest in a community like this?
So I work with Olivia at the garden, and we get a lot of volunteers. So I co-manage it with some of my amazing friends / coworkers in the audience. So just shout out to them. Anyways, so, a lot of these students who come volunteer, that's their first exposure to gardening and sustainable agriculture practices as a whole, right? And it's just, as a student, it's so inspiring to see these other students, be so impacted and be so excited to learn about gardening when our people have such a bad perception of agriculture. And, we've all suffered because of agriculture, as sad as that is. But that's just the reality of what it means to grow up here. And, it's super important to highlight these new experiences for younger people. It's really just, like, for me, it's been life-changing. As like I got into it because I met Olivia, and these are lifelong friendships, and that's what agriculture should be about. It should be about highlighting our community and just garnering just love all around for everyone involved. And I don't know what else to say other than it's important because it's a people-led initiative, right? So yeah, just rambling, but that's all I have to say.
Yeah. Do any other students want to add to that? Yeah. Okay.
I think investing, your question was basically like, why is it important to invest in school gardens? Or
Yeah, and specifically in the Valley.
Yes. I think with the Valley, there is like a history of agriculture, and just making sure those doors remain open in a way that is like empowering, I think is like something that should be considered for every area, and especially the Valley. And making sure that the food that's grown in the places that it's grown, and the people that are raised in different areas such as the Valley have the opportunity to have jobs that can support them after they're done with school, or schools that can support them after they're done with high school, in ways that they need to stay within agriculture and food systems if they want to, and also give them opportunities to explore other places around the world so that they can have enriched experiences to bring back home if they want to see other parts of the world too.
Yeah.
But it's incredibly important. So
Yeah. Thank you. Deputy, I don't know if you want to respond to anything you've heard so far, or speak a little bit to that next gen investment.
Well, first, I'll say that I'm trying not to cry because, oh my gosh, you guys are so inspiring, and I can feel the passion that you have and the connection that you feel with both your community as well as to empower the next generation of people to follow in your footsteps. You're really, reaching out your hands and bringing others with you. There's, even the two of you connected through the Prosperity Hub is such a beautiful story. And your question was, why is it important for departments, for the federal government to invest in communities like, here in the Valley? And this is the reason why it matters so much. We talked about, the history of, just the federal government really not meeting the needs of everybody. And, agriculture is the people's department. And I say sometimes too that, we're walking in Washington, D.C. and working in Washington, D.C. And unfortunately, there's also the moniker of USC being the last plantation. And we have a dark history. We have not always served our producers and our communities equitably. And again, it will take a long time to turn the tide on that. We have our cooperators, we have NextGen, we have a lot of investments that we're making across the board, across all of our mission areas to do this work. And I will say that we have to look at data and science to figure out what our challenges are and where we need to go. So we need to be in community thinking about what the challenges are. And we have our latest National Agriculture Census, or Ag Census, happens every 5 years. We just released the latest results. So the United States peaked in terms of our number of farms at about 7 million back in 1935. Now in 2022, we have under 2 million farms. The rate of loss for our farmers, especially our BIPOC farmers, our Hispanic farmers, is really alarming. And with that comes the loss of farmland, and that in many situations we will never get back. Unlike here, where I've heard that an incredible story where, zoning was actually being able to reverse from housing back to agriculture, which is a remarkable case study and example, and congratulations to the community for doing that. It takes education, outreach, and understanding to be able to do that work. But the other reason why I think this is really important, and we were talking about the NextGen program, that program didn't happen by accident. We had an opportunity. We got a big piece of legislation passed. And by the way, Congress gives us money. They give us authority. USDA and federal partners, we implement that, right? We try to do the best that we can to implement on their vision. But we have some flexibility in thinking about, okay, what are the challenges? What are we hearing from our stakeholders? And so the NextGen program was born out of people who had experiences like yours. Me and my team, Dr. Shipley, I don't know if she's here, Janie Hip, a huge tribal advocate who said, look, we know where opportunity has gone to historically. We know where it has not gone to. So we need to now center institutions like our minority serving institutions, our 1890s, our 1994, our tribal colleges, our HSIs, and our community colleges to make sure that they're a part of this journey. Because again, some of you talked about having exposure to agriculture and maybe not. I didn't have that exposure. You can't follow a dream if you've never been exposed to it. Right. And so the NextGen program and many of the other programs like the ones I talked about are about giving people an opportunity that they would never have otherwise had. And that a key part of it is making sure that students are valued for their talent and they're paid. Right. And one of the things, especially in DC and New York and some of these big cities, historically you would go and you could have an opportunity to work on the Hill. If your parents could afford to kind of have you have an apartment and, care for, your food and all of that. The vast majority of us don't have that privilege. And so NextGen is about making sure we listen to our partners, our institution partners, and say, what do your students need? And we try to design a program that would best meet the needs. And they could then design programs that would be really tailored to the network and the types of opportunities that they wanted to afford. So I say that to say as well, Mackenzie, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but it is so important for you all to think about careers and policy as well in program delivery, and some of the things that Deputy Undersecretary Dean was talking about. It doesn't happen by accident. If you're not in the room, if you're not at the table, your perspective won't be heard, right? And so these programs we have launched over the past couple of years are being led by and designed by and in partnership with communities, but by people who had equity at their heart and their core. And so, I think for all of you who think about, government is maybe not serving us, we don't really know where this money is going to. Yes, you can be an advocate on the outside and address that, but also I encourage you, I implore you to figure out how do these systems work, why were they designed this way, how do I make them better, and then you can take that knowledge, and if you want to go back to your community, work at a nonprofit, work at an institution, then figure out exactly how you pull those levers and push those buttons to drive that change, but you have to understand it before you can change it.
Yeah. I do have a question based on her response. With the upcoming election, do you foresee these programs that have been, I guess, growing pretty in awesome ways to continue growing in ways depending with the upcoming election and things happening?
It's a really important question, and I will say that the spirit that we brought to these programs is really coming from the president. And, you know, certainly there are some of us who are appointed, that you've heard from this morning, and depending on the election, we might not be here. But that being said, the work that we're doing is being integrated all the way down the department. And so my colleagues who are career public servants, they have this at their heart as well. Now, nothing is guaranteed. We don't know what can happen, but our work is not just to create something at the top that can go away. It is about institutionalizing equity, justice, and opportunity throughout our entire department. So yes, and also please vote.
Vote. Yeah, definitely. Thank you. I'm so glad you mentioned that, just about your experience and talking about a career in policy. I'm curious, I mean, you'll have so much time, but I'm curious if any of you do know or you have ideas of what you think you want to do, and if you would ever want to work in government or work in policy, work at the USDA. Yeah. If anyone has any thoughts around that? Would anyone want to work in the government? Why or why not?
So I have strong opinions, but no, I think that it's certainly important that people within our community to seek out these government jobs, even though that, you know, it can seem really scary. I know that I went out to a conference recently in Manners, Minorities in Agriculture, Natural Resources, Related Sciences, you know, and there was representatives from government jobs, and I know we all felt some sort of like pressure to, you know, engage with them, but we just don't know how. I know there's like an educational barrier between us and government that needs to be solved, because we do want to get into these opportunities and we do want to see these changes, but a lot of it comes down to us not being exposed to even the possibilities that we could work these positions, and that comes with representation and people like you and people of color who are working here, and women and people who are historically just haven't been included. A lot of it just comes down to us being exposed to that, and I think that, you know, seeing such a diverse group of people within government has certainly been inspiring, and for myself and for others to be able to like consider that. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks. Does anyone else have thoughts or want to add to that?
Maybe I'll just do a shout out and say, you know, you all know Dr. Arcelas. He worked for USDA, and then he came back and made the impact that he has made on all of you and the folks that I mentioned. So it can be a short-term opportunity. It can be a part of your career. I never ever thought I would work here so long in so many different ways. I think about it kind of in terms of a tour of duty. I get in, I learn everything I can, contribute everything I can, take back everything I can, you know, back to community or back to the work that I really care about. So think about it in more, maybe not a lifelong 45-year career in federal government like my father had, but think about it in terms of maybe, okay, I'll have an internship at NRCS, or I'll work at FNS, and I'll, you know, work in my rural development office, or work at the Farm Service Agency and understand how do farm loans work, why do grants go to, you know, this community and not that community, and then take it back and be an advocate and work for the National Young Farmers Coalition or for NIFI, or one, you know, of countless impactful organizations that are driving deep, impactful, meaningful work.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Well, we've heard some really inspiring tidbits from just your work in farms and gardens. And I guess on a more serious note, you know, with climate change, we're on track for 3 degrees warming by 2100 and expected to see a lot more disasters happening, and that will disproportionately impact people of color in low-income communities. And so and the reality is our generation, we don't have that institutional power yet, you know, like you do, or like some of these other deputy undersecretaries have. And so I want to give, you know, the students a chance to share what changes do you want to see in your communities that maybe you don't have that political power to change right now, just to take advantage of the fact that we have this deputy undersecretary sitting with us today. You know, what changes do you want to see in your communities, and you know, that can make communities more sustainable and climate resilient, and also increase access to healthy foods?
Okay, so there's a lot of talk within the agroecology program about keeping our food system local. And, you know, as Dr. Arcelas mentioned earlier, a lot of the food we produce here doesn't stay within the valley. We have, as he said, some of the largest rates of food-based illnesses such as diabetes, just because we don't have that access or that education on what it means to eat healthily. And we all want just to be better in sustainability and to lead a more environmentally conscious lifestyle, but that really does start with people and sustaining our own community first before we transition into an overarching goal of being more climate conscious. My first experience with agriculture is at the Hub and the Garden, and we are certified organic, and with that comes doing certain practices that are what we would consider like a little more environmentally friendly. But that's not all of it. A lot of it is, working with other people and working with farmers who have been farming conventionally for their entire lives, and seeing where they're at and seeing how we can help them transition to a more sustainable future.
I think, like, I'm sick with, like, the garden things. Like, I think, like, around parks and stuff, like, it would be nice to grow gardens with the kids to get involved. Like, I just think it'll be fun for them. It'll help them, It'll be cute. Like, I love little kids. Like, just to see the kids get involved with the community, I think it'd be a really good experience. I think it'd be a good experience for them. They'd have fun, They get to, like, grow their own plants, And then maybe they'd want to take it home, like, and they'd consider, like, oh, like, maybe I want to grow this at home. They get to grow their own fruits, keep it nice and healthy without, like, all the chemicals and stuff.
Has it changed the way you see food? Like when you go to the grocery store, it tastes different from what you've grown, or
A little bit, like, and I think it was like 8th grade or 9th grade. I went home and I was like planning potatoes. Like, it was, cause you just like, you grow potatoes from potatoes. Like, if, I'm telling you, like, if you put a potato in the ground, it's gonna grow more potatoes. So I went home and I cut up a potato, and I had like, I don't know, my house had this weird little basket in the back, and it had a bunch of dirt already in it. So I kind of just threw, like, when I would eat bananas, I would go and throw it there so I, like, decompose and make it healthier. And I went and I would grow a potato, and it grew like little baby potatoes. And I was actually so proud of myself. But, when I cut them up and ate them, like, I don't even remember what I made, but I remember, like, it tasted different, like, compared to, like, buying it at the store. You really taste, like, I don't know, you just taste the difference. Like, it tastes, to me, better. My brother thinks, like, the more organic stuff tastes funny, but I'm like, you're addicted to the chemicals. But I think it tastes better. It's healthier for you, like, not eating all the chemicals. So I think it's just fun, good experience.
yeah, it's amazing.
For me, I would like my 9th grade class, like when we have festivals, not like the winter festival, I would like for some of my 9th grade class to go out, like whatever products we have left over, go out and sell them to the people who need them, or pass them out. And my mom gave me this idea, actually, that we should actually open a little farm stand, a little stand in front of the McAllen Library and just give them out, pass them out to people. And back to what she was saying with, like, being little, not that long ago, I tried planting watermelons. Bad idea. My dogs went out and ate them. So, and they were, like, so itty-bitty. I was so happy. My brother, of course, he went, not the one sitting there, my other brother, he picked the watermelon, because it was, like, this big. He picked it. He didn't know I was planting them. And he brought him inside. I'm like, why'd you do that? It was the biggest one. I was like, dude. And then my dogs went out the next day and they tore them up. So there goes my watermelons. After school one time at the farm, it was volunteer work. I took a grapevine home. And I planted it. The gardeners came and took it out. I was like, so bad. So bad the next day. But yeah. I like seeing little kids interact with the farm. I would like for our school to start having elementary students go to the farm, because I know when I was in elementary, they did not let us go out there because we'd be so dirty the next day. It was so funny. But yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
And it's been a minute since your question, but I think it was about how gardens will impact different groups in the
what
valley.
changes you would like to see in your community?
Yes. I think that with the business center coming, I believe it's a partnership with the USDA and an ecology institute. I'm not too sure, but I think because they're focusing on colonias and helping with different things like that, I think that is one of the best things, especially when you're talking about like climate change and how it will impact underserved communities and minority groups and the valley specifically. When I'm thinking of the valley, I'm thinking of the colonias, I'm thinking of immigrants, I'm thinking of children, foster children. There are amazing groups like the Boys and Girls Club, Nature Center, educational programs like that come to mind, and I think just investing in those, churches, any like spiritual organization, all of those are so important. And yeah, those are the people who are there. At the First United Methodist Church, there's a food drive. I believe it's once a month. I volunteered at it before. I should definitely be there more. And they're just wonderful. Yeah, I've seen the lines of cars, especially during the pandemic times. There are a lot of people who need food, and there's a lot of people that want to help. And I think that just making sure that the people who want to help and the people who need help are able to help and be helped in better ways.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Awesome. And Savannah, I loved your idea with your mom, and you should go up to an important person here and pitch your idea. I recommend. Yeah, there's so much more I want to say. Did you want to add anything to what you heard as well?
Thank you. I'm reflecting on all of the great ideas that you all have. I mean, you're talking about exposure at a young age in particular. I think that is so critical. We know that we can't just invest at the, at the undergraduate level. We've been expanding our investments into community colleges. We also have programs at USDA that support K through 12, and that is an increased area of focus as well, particularly through NIFAR, National Institute of Food and Agriculture. So we have ag in the classroom. We're helping to build curriculum for educators, and shout out to our educators, because you all are the reason why we're all here. Thank you. And I, the thing that I reflect on too is just, we have resources, and the part that our goal here is to better connect them to this community. And so I was talking about our cooperator network and some of the organizations that we're funding. UTRGV is a cooperator as well, and their job through our program and our investment is to better link all of the opportunities we have at the department to help make sure that we can have things like school gardens, that we can have commercial kitchens and food hubs, and all of the things we know that this community needs. So we're excited about this partnership. I think it's just the beginning. I think you're right that the Regional Food Business Center that will focus on the colonias, and I know the partnerships here with community will be game changing, and you'll hear a little bit more from Undersecretary Moffett about that tomorrow. But we're invested in you, and we're invested in you because your passion is so important. Your ideas are so important. We will not solve our challenges that intersect around climate, around hunger, around equity without you. So thank you so much for being willing to share and being here. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you all. I want to leave a lot of time for questions, and so I want to now open it up to the audience to see if anyone has questions. Yeah, Sam. Should I get this one, or is there audience microphones? Okay.
Hi, Deputy. My name is Sam. Thank you for making it here today. I'm a master's student in sustainable agriculture, and I wanted to go back to what Apollonio said. I'm not sure if you're aware about the Manners Conference. To reiterate,
I was there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So we've gone to the Manners Conference a few times, and as sustainable agriculture students and employees, we always feel extremely out of place at Manners, because at school and in our community, we're being taught sort of grassroots-led sustainable ag movements. But when we go to Manners, which is a conference, a collegiate and professional conference for minorities in agriculture, we see companies like John Deere, Bayer, Nutrients, and Syngenta. And like Apollonio said, talking to some of these professionals who come out to Canvas is very intimidating, not only because they're awesome and cool, but because agriculture now, or the agriculture that is being presented to us by Manners, which USDA is a sponsor of Manners, is quite different from what we actually want to do in our career, in our life. So how can you respond to that? And how does someone like me or Apolonio or Olivia fit in to this world that is, we feel like we don't fit in already, and we're just starting our careers?
Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that is a super important insight. And, I know Manners, obviously we don't run Manners. That's an independent organization. We do provide support, particularly to build that networking, that matchmaking between any student who wants to pursue any type of pathway at USDA can have that exposure, right? That's kind of one of the key terms. But I would say, Sam, I think it's incumbent on you all, to be honest, to either, I think you have two choices. You can become a leader within Manners and make that change that you're talking about and build in that sustainability, small farmer focus, organic, all of the local regional passion and values that you bring. And I know that that's not unique to you all and your experience at Manners. I believe that there are many students that I met with who actually raised those same points. So maybe there's a way that you can internally raise that and be a part of Manners leadership to bring that to the table. I talked about the importance of representation and infusing that within the organization. I think that there are a range of other student groups in agriculture, SACNAS, et cetera, that you can be involved with as well. Or you can create your own. You can create your own that actually truly meets the needs that you're talking about and brings those values and those voices to the forefront of agriculture and food systems transformation, maybe in a way that you don't feel is happening right now.
Yeah. Is there, oh wait, we'll pass it. Here. Oh, okay. You and then you.
My name is Rudy Arredondo, and I'm the founder of Latino Farmers and Ranchers International. This is my home. I no longer live here, but I traveled from here to Washington, D.C. Undersecretary Sana Baij is one of my dear friends. And one of the things that I want to thank you is for the clarity in terms of your advice to our young people. And I really want to all of us to honor their presence here. All of you that are here, please, a big applause for them. Y si se puede. I came out of the United Farm Workers Union, and one of the things that that in our organization, we launched a Latino Youth Initiative in 2022. We were able to obtain support from T-Mobile and some of the private sector to start something that like is a FFA, but with a Latino flavor to it. So that's still right now we have community gardens at the entire Albuquerque public school system, from elementary to high school. They are doing not only community gardens, but they are looking like ovens that Mexican style, Native American style, where you bake bread and so forth. And our initiative is going to be having, I think it's in June, Travis McKenzie, who is our youth leader out of Albuquerque, is going to, we would like to extend you an invitation. It's nationwide. So we would love to have you attend us. Ultimately, it is up to all of us to be able to, we are the link to humanity. If we do not produce as farmers and ranchers, people do not eat and they'll starve. We had to take 1.5 million acres out of production in the Central Valley of California as a result of the drought and then the flooding that took place. We lost 600,000 acres of grazing land in New Mexico, and we lost 400 generational homes as a result of the prescribed fire that got out of control. Those are the things we need, all of us, including you, as youth. You need to keep all of us accountable to ourselves, especially the Department of Agriculture. One of the things that I like to appreciate that the commission, Equity Commission, is in place. But one of the things that's important is how do we measure progress? And it is important to break down how much of investments are done, especially in the ethnic communities. That is a tool that is essential. And the USDA, because I worked at USDA under the Carter administration as well as in the Clinton administration, and there was always a resistance for the racial breakdown. We cannot afford to that. If we're really looking into equity, we need to use how much investments, and I would like to see it very soon, to see the breakdown, how much has been invested in those ethnic communities so they can use it as a tool to measure the progress for the Equity Commission. And thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Can I just say thank you, Rudy, for your leadership? You've been clearly an advocate at the national level, the regional level, the local level. I love your focus on empowering youth, and we hear you about telling our story, about where we're delivering. Thank you for your comment.
All right, we have one question over here.
Yes, I'm Stacy Proctor from Buell Central, and right now Mr. Grola and myself are trying to get with the USDA. We have to finish our paperwork, and hopefully we'll complete it on Monday to turn it in. And would like to know what are the services once we get those paperworks, and what will be the services that we will be able to get through that, if we'll be able to have people to come and talk to our students, try to encourage them to go into agriculture. Will they also come and help us and teach us how to do the garden better? What's a simpler way? What are techniques that the students can learn, or even to do at themselves? So I'm just wanting to know what are the services that will be rendered once we are with the USDA, and how long does the paperwork take before it gets done?
Good questions. I would love to know what program are you signing up for? What is with what agency? And
it's the one in Edinburgh. I forget the which one we're under. They put us under. We're nonprofit, but they put us at like we were farmers ourselves, but we're teachers. So we have to go back and do the paperwork all over and adjust that, and we got that all taken care of. And once we turn that in, we'll see where we go from there.
Okay, well, I don't know the specifics about that program you're applying for, but the thing I would share is we have a state office for rural development in every single state in the country. We have Farm Service Agency offices in nearly every county. We have a state conservationist through NRCS. We have a lot of staff right here on the ground that should and must keep, building those relationships. So it really is, we have that menu of options, and we'd love to know, what do you actually need? So you mentioned gardens, you mentioned access to a couple of different programs. We would love to come and share with you what those opportunities are. And as I mentioned, that's our goal, better connecting organizations, especially within communities like this, to our resources, to our programs, and to our services. And I would add too, it's not just USDA, we're investing in our cooperators that I kept talking about, because they have the trusted relationships. They know your community best. They know that, hey, it might not make sense for you to apply to this, water management grant. You might want to think about looking at broadband first, right? So they can help tailor some of that guidance to you as well. So I would say, let's continue that conversation. Let's talk offline and get a sense of exactly what you need and what we can bring to the table for you. And congratulations. I hope that you get clearance soon. I don't know how long it takes, but hopefully soon.
All right, I know. All right, we have one question here. We got one here. There's another one back there. Okay, so
question. Can I add? Can
yes.
we ask some questions of our awesome youth as well?
Yes. Let's get some questions.
I'm happy
of the
to answer
students.
any questions, but we have this great knowledge up on stage.
And the deputy will be sticking around after. So if you have specific program USDA related questions, you can flag her down after the panel. Yeah, Marcos.
It's less of a question, more like, telling you guys something. As a high schooler myself, and I've also been here as a Food Summit panelist, I think it's very important what you guys are doing, like giving representation to young people, the people that I came with. And like you said earlier, talking to someone who looks important, which is what I did, why I'm sitting up here. All my friends are over there and I'm over here. Sorry. It's really important, and if not for the panel that I did last year, I wouldn't be able to do this. So I thank you, and I wanted to tell you how important it is what you guys are doing right now. So thank you.
You're still working at the garden at your school? You're still doing garden work at your school? That's awesome. All right, yes.
Hi, I'm going to stand up. I am the teacher of all the green shirts that you see over there. So I started this last year. I'm an AP Human Geography teacher, and if any of you have ever taken an AP course, you know it could be dreadful. Now, being dreadful to ninth graders, right? So I had this bright idea. I need to take these kids to do something fun. Not only that, but to apply real world experiences, right? They need the hands-on, and let's be honest, half of my kids have never played in dirt. And I know this because they said it firsthand, Miss, this was the best day of my life. When are we going back to the farm? So with that being said, I do want to say I am a proud ninth grader. I've been an educator for 10 years. I have seen a difference in attendance. Anytime we're going to the farm, I have 100% attendance. My kids are there. My kids, Miss, I'm ready for the farm. I'm ready for the farm. And at first, again, I was like, what am I getting myself into? These kids are going to complain. It's hot. I'm thirsty. Never once heard a complaint. The laughs, the joy, the excitement. I have kids that have been diagnosed with depression and anxiety. To see, I can show you hundreds of pictures to see the smiles, the laughs, the collaboration. Again, we haven't been to the farm in about 3 weeks, which they're probably hating me right now. But the attendance has increased. Food production, we have been able to supply our very own cafeteria that serves 100% free meals that were vegetables, fruits and vegetables that were grown by our very own green shirts. And I mean hundreds of pounds of radish, zucchini, onions, bell peppers, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, grapes, to name just many of them. My question, I guess, to you is, what funding? I know that there is funding available, but we want to make this a community because, again, we are in low socioeconomic, we are minorities. You want to make sure that these kids are going home with healthy meals. We talk about Healthy Start in the cafeteria, but what funding, or how are we going to increase the funding and or make sure that more schools are participating in a program like this?
Thank you for your work. Oh my gosh. Wow. One of the metaphors that I heard yesterday when we were on the farm and had a chance to tour was around the fact that we had something of a bucket brigade here in the Rio Grande Valley. And I say that in response to, maybe instead of a fully fledged fire department trying to extinguish all of the fires that we have and all of the challenges, the community came together and just found a way to create those solutions. And I think it's so remarkable to see how you're piecing together those partnerships through relationships with UTRGV, with other community-based organizations, with farm groups, to build that exposure and that connectivity with your students. And we definitely want to figure out how can we do more of that. It will take me all day to tell you about the funding opportunities, but I want to share that, with Deputy Undersecretary Dean and FNS and their commitment to farm to school programming, making sure that young students, especially in elementary school, can have gardens. There is a lot of opportunity out there. So I think we need to have a more tailored conversation about here's all the opportunities, what do you actually need, and then let's help you get through the process to get there. But clearly you've already already built such a fantastic foundation. I love to hear 100% attendance and participation from the students on the days that you go to the farm. Clearly, that was some of what you shared too, Savannah, being on the farm and not wanting to leave. So thank you. We'll continue the conversation for sure.
Yeah, thank you. We have one more question back there. Jacqueline.
Hi. Hello. Y'all are this has been so inspirational.
And
I
can
will
you
say-
introduce yourself too?
Oh,
and just
sure.
what you-
Sorry. My name's Jacqueline Falacci. I'm the owner and publisher of Edible Rio Grande Valley Magazine, which is a local food magazine for the region. So we talk about all things culture and lifestyle and nature. But a question that I have for the youth in this aspect of, I think, hearing y'all's stories, right? How can we inform youth to inspire more, right? So what are those stories that we can potentially, as a content creator or a magazine, what are those stories that you feel could potentially inspire a first grader or a 5-year-old or an 8-year-old that makes them want to get into the dirt, or makes them want to go meet their farmer, or makes them want to ask mom, where are these tomatoes from? You know, get that that's like super out there a little bit, but I'm really curious kind of maybe what those inception points were for y'all, or maybe how it is that you inspire your peers that aren't there yet.
I worked at this forest school in Colorado, and the kids were the most interested, like they were preschool age, in a book that we would read about dump trucks and like just the kind of nitty gritty of it. And I think like if the goal is to meet like a specific audience, you just have to meet them where they're at. And like the kids were wanting to throw their trash away after lunch if we read that book. Whereas like maybe a day before when we hadn't read that book, they were like not thinking about their trash. But I think just like opening, if the goal is like a small child just opening their mind to make it like engaging, like they were pretending to be dump trucks, taking their trash like to the trash can. And
then we need to make compost trucks. Next step.
Yes, that would be awesome. And yeah, just like then the next book would be like composting and recycling. So I think just like meeting the audience where they're at with something that's engaging and then going from there.
Anyone else want to share about kind of what that inception point was for you, or how you influence your peers?
So we have had groups of younger students and children over at the garden and at the hub, and you can really see their excitement. And you know, for a lot of them, it's their first time being exposed to agriculture, and you can really see how happy they are to be out there. I know, like, for you guys at the student farm, it's very similar, and it just comes down to just having those hands-on experiences, and I think that's the most valuable thing you can do. You know, to harness this attention and to get these students inspired. It's just about seeing it out in the open and doing it themselves rather than just reading about it inside of a classroom. A lot of young children respond a lot better to hands-on education and having that visual and physical movement of picking carrots or of cleaning their vegetables or of just being out there in the sun. So for me, like as an adult, it was also the same thing working at the garden. It did make me a lot more inspired than just reading about it through a textbook or learning about it through lectures. So yeah, it's about the exposure, and I think that we can all share that sentiment.
And I don't know if either of you want to add, but I know, Savannah, you were mentioning just when we were talking like about mental health and like the improvements you've seen. I don't know if that's just you personally or also your peers. I'm curious, like just to add to that, have you seen that improve in your peers as well?
Yeah, I've seen it in my peers. They like their mental health, like, yeah, my friend has like depression, anxiety, but I would always tell her, it's okay, we're having a farm day. And she'd be so happy for the rest of the day. And I love it because like I want to be there for her, but I know it's hard. And she gets anxiety a lot, and I feel bad. But I'm like, hey, we're going to the farm, you can play in the dirt. And she gets so happy, and I love that for her.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I want to add to what he said about how the kids I remember I was on the farm. I don't think you noticed, but this little kid had came into the farm and he walked over to me. And he's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm picking radishes." And he started going in and I'm like, "Oh no, don't pull that." And he loved it. He picked like 5 of them. He took them with him. And I was like, "We need those." And he just left. I was like, "Okay." But yeah, I think it's a hands-on work for kids, and I think they'll love it if we can get them into that environment and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to add anything?
I think if like just telling kids they'll be in dirt, like I think that like you can. I mean, as a kid, I loved playing in the dirt. Like I liked, telling them they'll be in the dirt. Like I think that'll be fun. And like the colors, I think that's why I like gardens and stuff when I was little. I like loved seeing all the colors. Like it's just beautiful. Like seeing the nature, like seeing the different colors, the way like the world can be so colorful. But it was mainly the dirt. I love the dirt. Like playing with the worms, picking up all the roly polies. I think just telling them that, like, oh, you'll get to be in the dirt. Like they'll wanna go, cause that's what I still love being in the dirt. I don't care. Like it's fun. Like it's a fun experience. You get to, like, they'll learn about it. They'll look at the worms too. So they'll get to see stuff, see the colors. Yeah.
Can I add really quickly,
Yes.
as a child who did not love dirt growing up, but I love to eat. So I think
I was going to say, I didn't love dirt either, so.
but I love to eat, and maybe that exposure, right? Once you actually grow something, you're working with that small kid, and then maybe like work on, helping feed the radishes or the other crops that you have and make it taste good. I know that part is really important. I mean, fresh seasonal vegetables, there's nothing better in my opinion, but there could be a stigma with young people and not wanting to eat that. So also finding ways to meet them where they are and make those foods from the garden as delicious as possible, I think is really important too.
And you can still have a career in food systems if you don't love dirt. Maybe it's just a career in policy instead of as a farmer.
I love soil, but not dirt. I won't get in it.
All right, we have time for one more question. Yes. And Alan, is it a question for the students? Oh, no. Yeah? Okay, cool.
Y'all have made it clear that gardens are incredibly important. So how do we get a garden into every single elementary school in the state of Texas, and then into the middle schools and the high schools? And I'm here to support you. But I am curious on how we can do that. And you all have, whether you know it or not, this film, you all have started that the movement, and so how do we leverage what's happened today to make it happen pretty rapidly over the next 2 years?
Yeah. Alan, can you introduce yourself too and your
My name's Alan Williams. I work at Region 1, the Educational Service Center for the state of the TEA. We cover 8 counties, and I am the director of Gardens, Habitat, and Landscaping. And I could not have had a better morning. And I thank the USDA for all of the support and all of the outreach and all of the programs that I have become aware of over this last couple of days. And I am just beyond encouraged and excited. And I'm a firm believer that having students out in these garden spaces with the colorful flowers, the native habitat, and all of you teachers, Mr. Proctor and ma'am, I can't wait to give you a hug. But you think about this, all of you students, you're here because a teacher connected you to a space outside at either on your campus or someplace else where there was plants and soil that you got to interact with. And that's incredibly, incredibly important and valuable, both from an educational point and a spiritual point. So how do we get the schools with all gardens?
Thanks, Alan. You might know that answer better than some of us here, but yes, for students, how do we get a garden in every school in Texas?
I think I think it would be better if like a school or the government funded it. Like at Buell, we do woodwork there too, so we were building the garden beds ourselves. So we'll cut the wood, we'll drill the wood together, and then we take them to the elementaries so they can like build their gardens, and we make them small for the little kinder kids. And I think it'd be really good to have that so the high schoolers get to engage in it, and so do the little kids, and then the high schoolers get to go and engage with the little kids too, help them out, like teach them a few like things, tell them what to do more or less. I think that would be really good to help all the schools like to collaborate with the high schools, the middle school, and the elementary. I think it'd be really good to do that to help like spread it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to add, my sister is an elementary school teacher, and she has me out here collecting caterpillars from the garden to take over to her so she can show the students. So there is that like desire for students to have that hands-on experience with nature and to reconnect back with our natural environment. But it like as Emily was saying, it does take funding, and I think that just having teachers and educators be aware of this and aware of the, the benefits it has, and just them advocating throughout their school boards for this funding is honestly the most you can do to implement these practices, because we've all seen it here in this room that gardens are important, but it takes educating educators and school board members and people in the education system to also see that. So yeah.
It doesn't necessarily need to be a class about agriculture. Like we saw, it's a geography class where they're incorporating agriculture into it, and so it can just already be incorporated into classes that exist. Yeah, Olivia.
Yes, I think with gardens at schools, like it's a lot of work. So to ask teachers who are working full-time already to then go build gardens that take time to like, it's a full-time job, I think, in a way, to garden and farm. So I think just having educators like specifically focused on farming and gardening, and like I think agriculture just has to, and farming and gardening have to be incorporated into the curriculum in a way that holds value in the same light as other things. And it's incredibly therapeutic too, and it gets you to be outside, and it gets you to be outside in a social way. It's not just like hiking or like playing. It's like a mixture of playing, hiking, but like in a space. It's a workout. There's like so many benefits. So I think like having the right people there to help set those things up and making sure that they feel supported throughout their time, because it's a living system. So making sure that they have the ability to support those living systems in schools, and not being paid for it. So like making sure that if they're doing it on top of their full-time work somehow, that they're also being paid for it.
Yeah. Well, thank you all. We're going to wrap up now, and just wanted to say, can we give one more round of applause for these lovely panelists? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Deputy Undersecretary. If you have any final closeout comments.
No, I mean, I think they said it best. And I want to thank you for your leadership as well. You're an inspiration to our students. So thank you, Mackenzie.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.